The aliens are already here. The aliens are already here. They have been here for a long time. I can't specifically tell you like a year, but definitely since the late 40s, the early 50s. Um, there's a lot of hybrid humans, and most of the hybrid humans, not all, but most of them, are not all of the same. Um, they're not all the same alien descendants because there's literally thousands of different types of aliens. I have not seen or met them all, but I have seen or met many, hundreds, and there are thousands. And most of them live in different timelines that kind of intersect or cross ours. So when I talk about timelines, I'm talking about parallel worlds that we can energetically jump to. You can do that by remote viewing, you can do that by astral projecting. A lot of times when you're sleeping and you have dreams of being in weird places with people either you know or you may not know, that's typically a timeline. So, the hybrid humans that have alien DNA, it's varying amounts. Most of them are very inconspicuous. You wouldn't know them, but you wouldn't be able to look at them and be like, "Oh, that's a human that has alien DNA." A lot are very obvious. They're either very tall, or they have animal-like looking features. A lot of hybrid humans have aerokinesis, which is where they can shift air or shift storms, create storms, or send storms away. They have telekinesis, where they can move things with their mind or their energy. Um, Pyrokinesis, where they can affect fire, maybe start fire, put it out, or just bend it with their energy, with their hands, with their thoughts. There are other types of kinesis, but I am not well versed on all of them. Um, the one I'm most familiar with is aerokinesis, and that is an ability that I have had for a long time. I can't exactly quite pinpoint when I discovered that I had aerokinesis, but I did definitely notice it in the last couple years that I lived in Spokane, Washington. I don't live there anymore, but I would notice it when we would have a storm and I would be thinking or talking to Mother Nature and saying, hey, can we push the storm or can we have more thunder or more lightning? And then it would happen. And I thought maybe I was just going crazy, maybe it was a fluke, but then I moved to Arkansas where there's tornadoes, which is a bad word in my house, by the way, and realized that all of the major storms we have had that were supposed to hit us dead on, that were supposed to produce, Tito's, didn't happen. Most of the storms that I see on the radar, and I'm like praying to my ancestors, like, please move this storm before it hits us or hits where I'm at. The storm will break apart, and half of it will go above me, and half of it will go below me. Um, and I know a lot of people might think, oh, that's a fluke, it's crazy, you're delusional, whatever. But this is a pattern recognition that I've noticed with all of the major storms because Tito's scare me. Not very many things in life scare me, but I'd rather go through an earthquake and a blizzard than go through a fucking Tito. Like, I hate the sirens, I hate everything about it. So, this is what I've noticed is that when storms are approaching and I direct my energy and talk to the universe and talk to the ancestors and go out and physically talk to the trees and Mother Nature and say, hey, shift this, please shift this, it shifts. I know that seems crazy, but I'm willing to bet my neighbors across the way probably have some video of me doing that. Um, but a lot of hybrid humans have abilities such as that, or they can read your mind, they can feel your energy, they can tell where you're sick, what it is that's making you sick and how to fix it. They can talk to animals, they can talk to nature, they can feel the energy in the trees and the shrubs and the land and the buildings, because everything has an energetic signature. Even inanimate objects like buildings have an energetic signature, especially the older they are. Certain geographical locations um, prove this to be true, like New Orleans. A lot of places in New Orleans are haunted. There's a lot of paranormal activity. There's lots of stories about witches and werewolves and vampires. And I've not been there, but I'm close enough to where I can feel the energy of that place. And I can definitely pick up on the different entities and hybrid aliens that reside there. Not specifically, not by like, oh, this person's name or this person's name, but it's the energetic signature of the frequency of the entity, of the hybrid, and of the DNA that they're mixed with that I can pick up on. Because they all have different energetic sense, when I'm getting into that in a minute, but there's energetic feels. Like the darker they are, if it's a demonic entity that is attached to a human or an animal or a structure or something in nature, I can feel it because it's like an overwhelming, all at once, like suffocating feeling, like somebody's sitting on your chest. And it's also vertigo. So when I pick up on that feeling of that entity, it gives me vertigo. I get this like ugh in my chest where it's kind of like my breath gets caught, and then I have like a string of visions, and it pops up in my head like movie reels. Sometimes it's moving, like I see a whole sequence of things play out, and other times it's just like a pictograph, like a snapshot. But with demonic entities, it, all demonic entities have a smell. The strength of that smell varies depending upon how strong they are, how old they are. Some demonic entities are very young. Others are literally 10,000 years old. The older they are, the stronger they are, the more they smell. It's a combination of like body odor, mold, and cigarettes is what it smells like to me. And it energetically feels like a wet blanket is what it feels like. It's just, I just like it, ugh. It catches my breath, like it makes it hard to talk. It just makes my skin prickle. It's just like a ugh. Yeah, I don't like the feeling, and I can feel them long before I see them. Like if I go into a store and there's somebody, a human that has a demonic entity, I can feel it before I even hit the store. Like literally, as soon as I get out of my car, I can feel it. Um, they're pretty good at cloaking themselves. A lot of times it just comes across as somebody with dead eyes, or it will give most normal humans the energy of uncomfortable, uneasy, um, like they have to, like, kind of watch themselves closer. It's y'all that have encountered this, you'll understand, like you'll know right away, like, oh yeah, that's I've felt that before. It's like a weird, like, I don't want to be around this person feeling, and that's usually what it is. In my personal experience, because I am a being of the light and I do tend to attract a lot of entities and demonic energy and narcissists, they all have the same. It's that every single one of them, that is what they have in common. It's that same ick feeling, like, oh my God, I don't feel comfortable, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Um, Narcissistic humans have been given that psychological branding, if you will, but it's a spiritual issue. It's because their soul becomes inundated with negative attachments. They can't fight it off. It's like, and we all know, we all either have been that person where we've had very intrusive thoughts, or we know somebody that just, no matter what good happens to them, They don't see the silver lining. They could win the lotto and still complain. You could give them a free dinner and they would say that the steak was undercooked or something. It's those people that never have anything nice to say. They're always angry, they're always depressed. They have addictions out the wazoo. They can't take any accountability or any empathy or like growth. And it's not, I don't know how to break this down. Um, Most of the time, they are not choosing to be this way. Their ego is changed, like the genetic makeup spiritually, the spiritual genetic makeup of their ego becomes tainted and tinged. It's the way I see it. It's like when you put black ink into water and it just kind of spreads out and kind of eventually covers everything, and then if you let it sit long enough it will start integrating until there's no clear parts of the water. That's what demonic entity attachments do to humans. Sometimes it's all at once and they just literally change overnight into people you don't know who they are. And sometimes it's little by little. It'll be weeks or months or years where you just note a little thing. It starts with them saying something really offhand that's borderline like, what the fuck? And then it'll change to them starting to drink or starting to smoke or do pills or do smokable things that alter their state of mind. And that is the way that the demonic entities work, because they take hold of the ego first. And then when you wake up one morning and you're just angry at everything and you just go to get your coffee and somebody looks at you wrong or you feel like their energy's wrong or whatever and you just want to throat punch them, like, a lot of times that is a demonic entity attachment. It needs you at a lower vibration to keep you in control so it can fully integrate the rest of your soul into its mission. All entities have a mission, whether they are of the light, dark, or demonic. Dark entities is not demonic. Dark entities are like, how do I explain this? It's when I think of a dark entity that's not demonic, I think of like a bull, okay, that can become demonic and aggressive and dangerous and violent, but most of the time is not. They become violent or aggressive when they are pushed, when they are felt threatened, when they are abused or neglected. But the rest of the time, they're more of a peaceful protector of sorts. And maybe a bull's not the greatest animal I could think of, but it's what came to mind. So, like me, I have a dark entity attachment that protects my life. That entity attachment is not demonic, however. But when people meet me and they don't know me or they don't have the ability to see or read energies, they get scared and they're like, there's something about you that's scary, even though you're nice and I don't know what it is, but it makes me nervous. That's what it is. It's because a lot of us seers, autistics, who I'm going to get into in a minute, a lot of hybrid humans have dark entities that protect them from things that most other humans would not survive: car accidents, addiction, fire, abuse, excuse me, illness, injury. I have countless stories of people I've known personally and people I've met on the internet and in public that have had wild things happen to them that are completely incompatible with life, and they have no idea. They just credit it to Jesus, God, whoever they believe, which is true. But a lot of times, uh, dark entities will protect you, and they're not gods or goddesses necessarily. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're not. Usually, if you have a dark entity that is protecting you, that is in your aura field, attached to your soul, it's been there for lifetimes. It's been there for typically at least one or two lifetimes, and was in previous lifetimes a human that passed on, but their soul was older and stronger than yours, so they chose to stick with you because they became part of your energetic blueprint. Now, once an entity becomes part of your energetic blueprint, it is very difficult to remove that entity, whether they are demonic, dark, or of the light. Um, there's just so much to talk about when it comes to hybrid humans. There's so many variables, there's so many different situations that can that apply, that really, like, one umbrella doesn't fully encompass it at all, because all hybrid humans have abilities beyond what normal humans have. And when I say normal humans versus hybrid humans, there's not anything wrong with normal humans. I don't really know else how to describe it, except for hybrid humans have alien DNA to some degree, to some percentage. They're typically the hybrid humans that are autistic, or they have O negative or O positive blood. They typically have eyes that change color, or they're heterochromia, so part of their eye is a different color, or one whole eye is a different color than another one. They typically uh, heal fast, but you might scar like crazy. Like, when I get an injury, it heals quick, but it leaves gnarly scars. Um, you can see into the future, you can see into the past, you have prophetic dreams, you can feel the energy from animals and humans and creatures, you can remember parts of your past lives. Um, Food, I've noticed with a lot of hybrid humans, food is very sensitive. You're going to become very sensitive, like you might have a gluten intolerance, or are you stuck? You're okay. Or a lactose intolerant allergy, or you might have a lot of weird allergies, or certain foods might put you into, like, um, sleepwalking. Could also be another thing. Release. Good girl. My cat's got her claw stuck. Well, don't get yourself stuck, silly. So when I talk about normal humans, I'm just talking about humans that have reincarnated maybe once, twice, sometimes three times, that are self-aware, that have like a sixth sense, but you don't really act on it. Um, like entities and dark demonic forces, like, you hear it, but it's not like pinging something in your soul when somebody talks about it. And that's not to be disrespectful. There's nothing wrong with not having those abilities, but there's a very clear difference between humans who have those abilities and humans that don't. Um, Normal humans are what I would also refer to as sleepers, because a lot of you have abilities, but you haven't quite woken up to it, or you're living in a set lifestyle pattern. Like, nothing really changes a whole lot in your life. You've never had a near death experience, or never been gravely ill or injured. Um, Sorry, it's kind of hard to break it down so that it makes sense, because I know a lot of times when I'm talking, it it doesn't make sense to people, and it's not anything with who I'm talking to. I think a lot of the times it's just how I'm describing things and the words that I'm using, and I understand that. So it's such a vast subject. It really is such a vast subject. And when I go out in public, I typically put people into two categories. It's either humans that are safe, they have safe energy, or they have indifferent energy. And then there are the other humans that have demonic attachments that are dangerous. And when I mean dangerous, I don't mean that they're just going to, hurt you out of nowhere, but they are more ready to jump to violence or jump to anger if something doesn't go the way that they want it to. In that way, they can be emotionally, mentally, verbally abusive in that way, or controlling, or neglectful. So when I come across somebody like that, I've come across it so often now that I'm kind of used to it. But that's how I keep safe in public. And other seers, I'm sure you will be able to attest to this, that you can tell there's a very clear difference between spiritually safe humans and other humans that are not spiritually safe. And that can manifest in many ways. So that's typically how I see humans when I go out, is by the ones that are safe and by the ones that are not safe or could potentially do harm to me because they are bothered by the light that I carry or the spiritual power army that I have behind me. In my experience, in dealing decades with demonic entity attachments in humans, it is nearly impossible to remove a demonic entity once it's attached itself to a soul. Because typically, once one attaches, then it's much easier for second, 3, 4, 5 attachments because one's already taken root and basically extended the invitation to other ones like, hey, I found a host, come join me. And I've cleared entity attachments from people that had one entity attachment or that had a new entity attachment. I used to have somebody in my life who started out in their life being of the light, having a lot of abilities, having prophetic dreams, deja vu, being able to timeline jump, being able to read energy. They ended up in a group of people they could not get away from that had demonic entity attachments and would do things to hurt people and laugh and break hearts and just make other people feel horrible emotionally. That's how they gain their power. And slowly, that's what happened to this person. The light drifted from this person's soul, from their eyes. Their eyes started taking on a dead look. Like you could look in this person's eyes and literally see, you could see it. Like you could see behind their eyes. You could see the evil forming. And it broke my heart because I was close to this person at one point in time and tried for years to help this person spiritually, to cleanse. I was doing constant cleanses every day, which were making me sick. And eventually I realized that by continually trying to remove these demonic entity attachments, it was draining my own life force. I finally realized there was not a way to help this person. And so I distanced myself emotionally because I knew I could see, I knew, I predicted to this person where they were going to be in 5 or 10 years if they gave into the dark. I told you, this is what's going to happen if you give into the dark. This is where you're going to be if you follow the light and fight through it. And they told me, I like it when people look at me and they're scared. I like the power that I hold. I like that I can scare people into submission, into doing what I want. I like the power that it gives me. And from the moment that person said that to me, I knew right away that as much as I cared about that person, I couldn't save them. And I'm a root worker. I'm a bloodline shaman. My grandfather was a shaman. My great-grandfather was a great-grandmother on a rancheria was a shaman. I've cleared entity attachments before. I've done spiritual clearings. I've done house cleansings for people and objects before. Um, but that was the first time that I could not permanently detach these entities. So, unfortunately, with a lot of these cases where humans have demonic entity attachments, even root workers can't permanently clear them. We can clear them for a day or a couple weeks or maybe a month, but especially if the environment this person is in is full of negativity, anger, depression, lashing out, crashing out, not sleeping, addiction, self-harm, hurting other people, doing negative things for attention, you just, at that point, you can't save their soul. The best thing you can do is hold heart space and keep a distance and hope that they find the light. But a lot of times when they become attached with 2, 3, 4 demonic entities, they don't want to find the light. They enjoy being dark. They enjoy the power that they think it gives them. They thrive off of the fear that they see in your eyes, the fear that they read from your energy, off of your tears. It's like it gives them joy. And when you're a being of the light, it takes so much light energy for me to read demonic entities, but to clear them. I can do it, but it takes a lot of light. Demonic entities suck up a shit ton, of light. So you have to be very careful when you are interacting, especially on an emotional level, with somebody who has a demonic entity attached to them. Chapstick is my saving grace, that's why. So when it comes to normal humans and their abilities versus hybrid humans and their abilities, I have found through personal experience and talking to a lot of humans, hybrid and non-hybrids, that non-hybrid humans are typically the ones that don't believe in the conspiracy theories that the hybrid humans know are not just conspiracy theories. These are things that are actually either have happened or are happening or will happening based on pattern recognition, based on entity, energy, reading, recognition. Um, because hybrid humans possess the ability to timeline jump, awake, and asleep, there's so much more access that is granted. It's I don't even know how to explain it, but there's definitely a distinct difference. And non-hybrid humans can learn, they can acquire abilities through practice and through learning and through mentorship from hybrid humans in telekinesis or aerokinesis and or reading energy or astral projecting, but it's not something that they are typically born with. It's not a bloodline biological knowledge. It's not a bloodline energetic spiritual knowledge, because as humans we're born with bloodline knowledge, but also humans can be born with I call it like a bloodline spiritual knowledge, wisdom that gets passed down, not just from your ancestors that have passed over, but from your ancestors isn't quite the right word, but I'm not sure what else to use. Ancestors that are alien, because hybrid humans are predominantly human, but they have, it's typically less than 2% of alien DNA, like 0.7% or, 0.3 or 0.5 or whatever. And the percentage amount itself is not the important part. The important part of the alien Hybrid human is the type of alien, where they came from, what dimension, what timelines, what abilities they have. So you could have two hybrid humans. One of them has 1% unassigned DNA because that's what it shows up in your DNA is unassigned, or it could be zero point 0.7. The hybrid human that has 0.7% unassigned DNA could be stronger than the hybrid human that has 1% of unassigned DNA because the 0.7% could be from aliens that have been around longer, they have higher powers, or they have a different variation of powers than the other hybrid human has 1% DNA, because a lot of aliens come from one specific place. They come from a specific dimension, a specific planet, a specific portal. But then there are the aliens that have multiple abilities because they are interdimensional, usually because they are hybrids of another alien race. Like they have no human, but they might be Pleiadian and Lemurian, or Draconian and the Greys. And then from there, there's the mixing with the human DNA. So I have discovered that the hybrid humans, a lot of them have DNA that shows up as being unassigned. And the people who run these DNA companies have all sorts of reasons as to why it's coming up unassigned, but aliens exist. We know that. The government has come out and said that. People have had experiences since the beginning of time. But there's definitely a difference in the type of alien. Some of them have, it's different strengths, it's different abilities, it's different ages, it's different experiences, different wisdom, different technology. Most, if not all of them, manipulate energetic frequencies as communication. It's also the basis for their technology, and it is manipulating the energetic frequency, adding things, taking away, conjoining, basically bending up. And from that, they get other abilities and technology that's like a byproduct. It gets a lot trickier when you get into the intricate details of exactly how it's done and what they use, because I don't know them all. I just know what Spirit has shown me, what I've learned from entities I've seen, astral projecting, or remote viewing. Which, by the way, I do not recommend doing that, either one, astral projecting or remote viewing, until you are secure. Like, you would bet your own life on yourself that you can protect yourself, because let me tell you, you don't want to end up astral projecting or remote viewing somewhere where you can get attacked, because it's happened. There have been, I can't even tell you how many times I have astral projected somewhere unknowingly, or not fully been able to control where I land, and ended up in some very dangerous places where I've woken up with cuts and bruises. And I know I'm not the only one. I have talked to hundreds of other people who have woken up with cuts or bruises, or had crazy vivid dreams, and it feels like they're still in the dream. It's because your energetic signature gets stuck. Like, it doesn't, what happens when you wake up from a vivid dream and you still feel like you're in it is because your soul, when it quantum jumps and astral projects, which are two different things, so don't mean to confuse you. But what happens is all of the energetic particles of your soul, when you jump, timeline jump, or astral project or remote view, they don't all go through the portal at the same time, at the same speed. A lot of times it happens that way, but sometimes you still have some particles that are still coming through the portal. So when you wake up from a very vivid dream and you're confused, like, oh my God, that was so real, it was. That's because the last particles of your energetic soul, your DNA, is still coming through that portal. So that's why it's still so fresh. You can feel it, you can taste it. You're kind of like lightheaded. I've had situations where I've woke up and just kind of been not completely lucid, like my mind is here, but it's also somewhere else. Or I've had vertigo, or I'm nauseous, or I've had random cuts and bruises. Like, I did not go to sleep with this cut on my leg. How did this happen? Like, I don't thrash around that freaking hard in my sleep. And I have talked to literally so many people who have had the same experiences, especially online. Hi, baby. You want to come hang out with Mama? Come here. Yeah, come on. She hears me talking and she's like, I must come supervise. Come on, baby. She's coming. So, your dreams are not random. I know they can be very scary. There are infinite amount of timelines that you can land in, and the possibilities of things that can happen while you're in those timelines is, it's a lot. Like, you could fill a whole book with it. I got a kitty. So a lot of people have vivid nightmares. Night terrors is what they would describe them as, and that is because you are astral projecting to timelines with demonic entities that are using your vessel as a portal. And a lot of times in those night terrors, your vessel is what I would call paralyzed. Like, you're lucid, you can move your eyes, but you can't move anything else in your body. You can't speak. It's like nothing works, kind of like you're held captive. I've had that happen to me a lot. It doesn't happen to me anymore, but it used to a lot. And what happens when that happens to you is that you get, okay. Thanks for being gentle, you jerk. Is that when you are sleeping, your soul is astral projecting to different timelines, but it's uncontrolled because either you're not aware, or you haven't grown your abilities, or you haven't practiced them, or you haven't done the proper or the length amount of spiritual protection when you're jumping into these timelines. And so it's the best way I can describe it is you become like a beacon. When you timeline jump and you end up with night terrors, your soul becomes like a lighthouse for other entities, and they're like, oh, I can hitch a ride. They don't always have the best intentions. And a lot of times when you get entity attachments, it is incompatible with your vessel. And what I mean by that is when you have an entity attachment from a timeline jump to a dark or demonic timeline, the attachments can make you sick. So you would have like phantom heart pains or heart attacks symptoms, or headaches, nausea, sore throat, allergies, migraines, sudden hay fever, severe depressive thoughts, like out of nowhere, like aversions to food or cravings to food you've never had, wanting to smoke, wanting to drink, wanting to drive fast, wanting to lash out and physically display your anger, or do high risk things like bungee jumping. You start doing, saying, acting, feeling out of character, per se. You're still your vessel, you're still you. Okay, for instance, I'm going to use I don't know, Theodore. He's not a real person, I'm just making him up. Theodore lays down to go to sleep at night, okay? He's not very spiritual, man of God, but doesn't really like pray to anything or anybody. Goes to sleep, has a very vivid dream of somebody attacking him, maybe grabbing him by the throat and holding him down, and he can't move. Wakes up, feeling like he can't breathe, or maybe he's got like marks on his arms or something. And then the next couple days, he's feeling like he's got the flu. He's kind of lethargic. His body hurts. Maybe his stomach is having problems. Maybe he's nauseous or having headaches or just can't sleep. Maybe he's seeing shadows out of the corner of his eyes, or he's dropping a lot of things. He's tripping over a lot of things. He's had a lot, or there's people that are like close to sideswiping or cutting him off in traffic. That a lot of times is symptoms of having a demonic entity attachment that is manifesting as physical problems. And then over the next couple weeks, Theodore's still having these crazy dreams and he can't escape them. And then he's afraid to go to sleep because he knows he's stuck and he can't move, or he's trying to scream for help and he has no voice. And then he wakes up and he's looking around himself and constantly checking his shoulder and thinking he's hearing things and thinking he's seeing things and thinking that his phone is ringing and it's not. A lot of times that is the symptoms of an entity attachment. And I know that firsthand experience because when I was, God, probably up until I was in my mid 30s, almost late 30s, I had various forms of attachments. I would even go as far as saying that one or two probably were demonic, because I remember going through phases where I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, and I started drinking, I started smoking more, I started not taking care of myself, sleeping and then not sleeping enough, lashing out at people. And I remember sitting down and I was literally sitting on the floor of my trailer, because I used to live in a 27-foot trailer, bawling my eyes out, asking God, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel like this? Why are these thoughts in my head? I didn't feel like this 2 months ago. Like, what is happening? Did something happen to me? Like, what, am I losing my mind? Am I going crazy? Do I have a mental disorder? Whatever it is. So I went to a therapist, and then I went to a psychotherapist and said, test me. If there's any underlying disorders, find it. And they did all the psychological tests, the personality test, all that BS, one-on-one counseling, and said, no, you have no personality disorders. You don't have any mental health disorders. You're depressed and you're anxious, but that's to be expected with somebody with your medical problems. And so I did a lot of soul searching. And I kind of had to pinpoint, journaling through journal and music, when did I notice that those changes started happening? When did I notice that all of a sudden when I was driving, I just wanted to yank the wheel on the freeway? I'm like, when did that start? Because I had never had those thoughts before, not once. And I realized that it was a particular time in my life after being around some people who were really, really not good for me and almost ended my life. And I was like, makes sense now. And so doing a lot of soul searching and meditation and talking to other spiritual people and changing my mindset that I either need to just adapt or die, because I can't keep living my life this way. I'm hurting myself, I'm hurting other people, I'm not being a good societal contribution. And there was a lot of hours of me sitting on the floor, either throwing things or just crying tears until I couldn't breathe, just talking to God, talking to my ancestors, and begging for help. Help did not come to me in the form of humans. Help came to me in the form of feeling the presence of somebody putting their hand on my shoulder in a very loud voice, in my head saying, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. And then I realized that there was a very clear difference in that moment. It was like a light bulb moment. It was an epiphany that there was a very clear difference between my guides and my ancestors helping me and my ego trying to help me to keep me safe. I swear the ego is literally like the most dangerous thing to humans that there ever could be. It's the ego. It will tell you you were ugly when you were beautiful. It will tell you you're a failure when you're a success. It will tell you that you're lazy when you're ambitious but you're just resting. It will tell you you're a shitty parent because your kids don't like you. It will tell you you're a shitty boss or a shitty employee. That is your ego. There is a way to not just put your ego in check, but have your ego be in harmony with your spirit, which is your higher self, which is that sixth sense, that inner voice. Everybody has it. Not everybody uses it, but everybody has it. So there's many more episodes coming after this about hybrid humans and the different ways that they live and the things that they experience and how they came to be and where they're going from here. It's entirely too much to put into one podcast episode, so there will be many. And I am open to questions. Please ask me anything that you want. I'm happy to answer. Even if it's a conflicting view, I would love to hear it because the more I learn about other people, the more I learn about myself. And there were times that another person's story about how they got out of hell saved my life. So if I can change the life or the mindset of one person, then I've done my job. That's all I ever wanted to do, was awaken other people to their gifts, to their compassion, to their light, and educate them and help them heal. Because I believe through education is healing. That's how we heal. That's how we grow. So if you are struggling with anything angry or depressive or just hopeless in your life, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you don't see the tunnel, it's okay. You will. You literally just need to pivot. If you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you don't see the tunnel, it's because you're looking at the mountain with the tunnel at the wrong angle. Pivot. You will find it. I will help you. Don't give up.